Yeah. Okay. Mukunda, close it more. Oh, and we have this one open. Yeah, we don't need so much. It's too much. Can you close this door? Yeah. Close it up. We don't. It's just not that hot. No. Leave about a foot if you can. Isn't it? That's good. There we go. Thank you, Bruce. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradhari Jaya Gopichana Vallabha Girivaradhari Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yashodanandana Brajajana Ranjana Yamuna Tira Vanachari Yamuna Tira Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parajikacharya Astotra to Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON BBT Founder Acharya Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Om Vishnupada Paramahansa Parajikacharya Astotra to Sri Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Ki Jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur Ki Jai. Srimad Bhagavad Gita Ki Jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda Ki Jai. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glory to Shri Guru and Gauranga. Well, Marcy, I got the marker here, but there's 4 verses on here. Okay. All right, so that's good. You remembered. 35. All right, so let me just... Okay. Okay. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. On this 10th day of September 2018 in SanDiego, we're reading from Srimad Bhagavad Gita as it is, translation and commentary by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada. We are in chapter 18 entitled The Perfection of Renunciation, and we're on page 682 in almost all of your books, and on text 35. Yaya swapnam bhyam shokam Vishadham hadamevacha Navamunchati dhurmedha Duti sa partatamasi Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam vishadam hadamevacha navamunchati dhurmedha Duti sa partatamasi Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam Vishadam madamevacha Navamunchati dhurmedha Duti sa partatamasi Parashakti. Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam Vishadam manamevacha Navamunchati dhurmedha Duti sa partatamasi. Marcy. Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam Vishadam madamevacha Navamunchati dhurmedha Duti sa partatamasi. Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam Vishadam hadamevacha Navamunchati dhurmedha sa partatamasi. Damodar. Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam Vishadam hadamevacha Navamunchati dhurmedha Duti sa partatamasi. Mukunda Charan, can you do? Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam Vishadam hadamevacha Navamunchati dhurmedha Duti sa partatamasi. Yaya swapnam bhayam shokam Vishadam hadamevacha Navamunchati dhurmedha Duti sa partatamasi. Yaya, by which swapnam, dreaming, bhayam, fearfulness, shokam, lamentation, vishadam, moroseness, madam, illusion, eva, certainly, cha, also, na, never, vimunchati, one gives up, durmedha, unintelligent, dutihi, determination, sa, that, parta, osanapita, tamasi, in the mode of ignorance. Translation. And that determination which cannot go beyond dreaming, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness, and illusion, such unintelligent determination, osanapita, is in the mode of darkness. Purport. It should not be concluded that a person in the mode of goodness does not dream. Here, dream means too much sleep. Dreaming is always present. Either in the mode of goodness, passion, or ignorance, dreaming is a natural occurrence. But those who cannot avoid oversleeping, who cannot avoid the pride of enjoying material objects, who are always dreaming of lording it over the material world, and whose life, mind, and senses are thus engaged, are considered to have determination in the mode of ignorance. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnanandana Shalakaya Chakshu Unmidatam Mena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master Srila Prabhupada opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my humble obeisance unto him and all members of Sri Parampara. So, in this section of the 18th chapter, Krishna is going through various things, various, what can I call them? Elements that we all deal with all the time. And he's showing how there are all of them affected by the modes of nature. We went through, in last year, you also began in the last chapter, different kinds of sacrifice, different kinds of austerity, different kinds of charity. Here he's had knowledge, activity, and the doer, or the karta, the actor, all in different modes of nature. And now he's talking about determination. Now it's interesting that this morning we're reading the Nectar of Instruction, a book called the Upadeshamrita by Rupa Goswami, which is a very nice practical manual for practicing devotees. And the third verse there, he talks about determination. He says, if you want to succeed in this yoga process, bhakti yoga, then here's a formula. The previous verse he talks about how these impediments will stop you from progressing, and this verse is about progressing. Utsahan nishchayat dharyat tattad karma pavartanat sangatyagat sato vriddeshadvi bhakti prasidyati. Prasidyati means to help flourish, to make it flourish. So he has a formula there. Enthusiasm, determination, and patience in the matter of the activities of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada points out in the purport that Krishna consciousness is a culture, and a culture means there's certain activities that you do. It's not just sitting down and meditating. It's not just doing one thing. It's doing everything that you do with your senses, mind, and intelligence, but doing them in a certain way under instruction of the scripture and higher authorities, so that they further your advancement in devotional service. And one of the aspects is determination. Now, determination is necessary. We all experience it, whether inside or outside of bhakti yoga. If you want to accomplish something, you have to be determined to overcome the impediments that are there. Now, many times these impediments are internal. I remember in my short college career, well, let's go to my high school career, because then when I was really into succeeding, I had this idea that I wanted to be the top of my class, you know. There was this one lady who was smarter than me. She was a German lady, and she was always a couple of notches ahead of me. You know, I would get 96, she would get 97. Like this. So I was always like determined that, oh, I'm going to overcome. So that meant that I had to study harder. I couldn't just sit back and glom into the TV all the time. I had to do my homework, write the papers, study harder, and like that. You know what I mean? So when you have a goal to accomplish, you need determination to overcome the impediments. It's simple as that. The problem is that in the different modes of nature, you establish different goals, and oftentimes, especially in the mode of ignorance, you'll establish a goal and then you give up on it. And that's what this is about, right? Bhayam, shokam, dream, fearfulness, lamentation, moroseness. This is the symptom of failure. You try to do something and you fail. And you can get into a habit of failing, and I'm a failure. This is like a syndrome. And then you need, it's a common thing today because there's so many difficulties. So maintaining one's determination and enthusiasm in achieving something worthwhile, especially Krishna consciousness, this is an essential aspect, because there will be impediments. The impediments come because we're conditioned. We're conditioned to not being Krishna conscious. We're conditioned to acting in the modes of passion and sometimes in the mode of ignorance. But in Krishna consciousness, you're trying to act and think and work in the mode of goodness. So it requires an effort to come up out of these modes of passion and ignorance and come to the mode of goodness. So this is something we try to how can I say, analyze or watch in ourselves when we start to sleep too much, or we're lamenting. If you notice this word shoka, the symptoms of the Brahma Bhuta platform, which will come in a few verses. And this is a symptom not only being goodness, but in the what we call the mode of pure goodness. See, the mode of goodness is always tinged, material goodness, by passion and ignorance. And as Krishna explained a few chapters earlier in chapter 14, we're never really in one mode. Sometimes the mode of passion overtakes us, sometimes the mode of ignorance. Your predominant mode, you can say, well, he's predominantly in the mode of goodness or in the mode of passion. But there's always the tinges of the other modes. There's combinations. So that's material life. But spiritual life means to rise above the modes, as Krishna explains at the end of chapter 14, by connecting with him through the process of bhakti yoga, devotional service, centered on and especially in this age, the chanting of the holy name, then one can come to what we call the Vishuddha Sattva. Sattva is is the official Sanskrit name for the mode of goodness. Vishuddha means completely pure goodness. Shuddha is pure, and Vishuddha is perfectly pure. That means there's no tinges of passion or ignorance. And on that platform, it's described in Brahma Bhuta Prasanatma, na shochati nikangchati. The word shochati is the verb for shokam. Shokam here is what? Lamentation. Shochati is to lament. So what do you lament for? You lament for things that you want that you can't get, or you lament for things that you want and you got and you lost. You see? This is what material life is all about. Is that the different desires come upon you, material desires. As you grow up, you have a certain set of desires. I like to recall when I was a kid. At a certain point in those days, mid to late 50s, you had to have a bicycle. Your kid, your friends all had bicycles, and I needed to have a bicycle. And so eventually my parents bought me a bicycle. I was in Vaikuntha. Suddenly you're much more mobile, right? It's like a whole thing. Okay, now I can go here, go there. So that lasted a few years, maybe a couple of years. And gradually I got into high school. I got into this competition I mentioned. And I was spending less time needing the bicycle. And after a while I put it in the basement and it was gathering dust. My desires had gone a different direction. Then I'm aspiring for something else. And if you achieve it temporarily, you're in seventh heaven, right? But because it's material, it wears off. It becomes stale after a while. And so you keep getting on. And oftentimes you can achieve something. And that's your shoka, lamentation. So determination in Krishna consciousness means that you don't lament. No hankering, no lamenting. In Brahma Bhuta platform. Yes, you aspire to advance in devotional service, but you realize it's up to Krishna. You try as hard as you can to do what you're supposed to do. That's your responsibility. And the success of it is up to Krishna. So you don't get into this lamenting mode. And certainly not into the kankshati, which is material desire and aspiration. It's all transferred into spiritual emotion. So that will come up in a few verses. Here he's giving us, this is what the material world is all about. There's people who are very determined in very dark aspirations, right? We commonly call them demons. They succeed for a while in spreading their darkness, and sometimes they become very powerful in this world. Krishna comes himself, or he sends his emissary. So that's what material world is. It's never truly in the mode of goodness. Now, in our own life, we can cultivate pure goodness and actually get out of this world. But the material world is always going to be like that. So here Krishna is describing what things are like, and in a few verses he'll describe the means of transcending it. And he's actually going to wind up his instructions in a matter of a couple of dozen verses. Okay, should we go on? Purport was quite short. Go ahead, Mukunda. That I'm not sure. I have the commentaries by Vishwanath and Baladev. I can look them up and see there's maybe something in there for that. All right, text 36. Now, different kinds of happiness. Sukham vidanim trividham shinume bharatarshaba abhyasad vramati yatra dukkantam chanigacchati. O best of the Bharatas, now please hear from me about the three kinds of happiness by which the conditioned soul enjoys, and by which he sometimes comes to the end of all distress. Purport. A conditioned soul tries to enjoy material happiness again and again. Thus he chews the chewed, But sometimes in the course of such enjoyment, he becomes relieved from material entanglement by association with a great soul. In other words, a conditioned soul is always engaged in some type of sense gratification. But when he understands by good association that it is only a repetition of the same thing, and he is awakened to his real Krishna consciousness, he is sometimes relieved from such repetitive so-called happiness. So this is very illuminating. The basic principle of life, not even just material life, any life, is the desire to be happy, to enjoy pleasure, and to avoid pain, to minimize suffering, whatever kind of suffering it may be, physical, mental, emotional. This is what the nature of the living entity is. And the reason is because we're part and parcel of Krishna. Krishna, that which means we have God's qualities in minute degree. That we are basically divine in that sense. We've lost touch with that by being absorbed in matter. It's still God's energy, but it's not His spiritual energy, it's the material energy. And the material energy is fraught with difficulty. We can't realize our real nature. It can be summarized in this word. It's nice knowing this word, Sat Chit Ananda. This is often described as Krishna himself as Sat Chit Ananda. Sat Chit Ananda Vigraha. It's composed of three words, Sat meaning eternal, Chit meaning full of knowledge, and Ananda meaning full of bliss. That's who we really are. That's our nature. But we've lost it. We don't have to look very far to realize that we're not eternal, certainly in this body. We're certainly not full of unlimited knowledge. And who can describe their life as always blissful? Nobody in this life. We get little, bits of happiness here and there, but there's often a lot of suffering mixed in, sometimes extreme suffering. So that's material life. But we should know, and this is a, one of the, I remember this before I ever even heard of Krishna consciousness. This, I don't know what you would call it, a motto. You probably learn it as a child. Asatoma sadgamaya amitam mrityum va amitam ma, how's it go? Tamasi ma jyotirgama. I didn't memorize it. I think it starts out with tamasi ma jyotirgama asatoma sadgamaya. Not mrityum, death. Anyway, which means that it's taken to be two different things. Actually, the ma there is me. It's a call to the Lord. Please take me from darkness to light, from death to, from the unreal to the real, asat, the unreal to the real, and from death to immortality. So this is if you can embrace this, this is a very inspiring thing. It means that this isn't all there is. This life is not all there is, which is certainly fraught with temporality and misery, darkness, illusion, and death and disease. All of these are present. So much of our life is trying to forget those things and enjoy little bits of happiness, But eventually they're slammed back in our face. We're mortal, and we're in darkness, delusion. So that if you embrace that, well, there really is a life beyond this darkness, a life of eternal bliss and happiness beyond death. Please take me to that. Now, if you call out, really, then how does the Lord do that? He comes himself, he sends his emissary, he speaks his book, and he invites us, and especially as Lord Chaitanya, he invites us, here, come and join. Here's the process, chanting and dancing. And so that process, if we take it up, will lift us out of the material modes, even while in this body. As Krishna says very distinctly near the end of chapter 14, he's answering the question of Arjuna. What is the quality, what is the nature of one who has risen above the modes, and how does one rise above the modes? And Krishna has described the quality of one who has risen above the modes, which is basically equipoise in this life. Not being whipped around by kanchati shochati, by the material desires and the lamentation and all of these things. Equipoised. And then how to achieve it? Mam chayo vyabhicharena bhakti yogena sevate Sagunan samatityaitan Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. Now this Brahma bhuya is Brahma bhuta is described in a few verses, which is characterized by prasannatma, na shochati, na kanchati, no lamenting, no hankering, samak sarveshu bhuteshu, seeing everyone equally as a spirit soul, and attaining bhakti to me, devotional, being in devotional service. So, how to attain it? By unflinching devotional service, the practice of unflinching devotional service, as given in outline in Bhagavad Gita, and more detail in Srimad Bhagavatam and the books of the Goswamis and the teachings we have. So here, Krishna's this introduction, he's going to give us three kinds of happiness. And you see, these are famous verses. That which is poison in the beginning, but nectar in the end, that's the mode of goodness. We have to work for it, you know, but you get something worthwhile. Anyway, we'll see as it goes on. All right, let's read on, because we'll see, maybe get through these happiness modes. Yat tadagre vishamiva pariname mitopamam tatsukam satvikam proktam atma buddhi prasarajam. That which in the beginning may be just like poison, but at the end is just like nectar, and which awakens one to self-realization, is said to be happiness in the mode of goodness. Purport. In the pursuit of self-realization, one has to follow many rules and regulations to control the mind and senses and to concentrate the mind on the self. All these procedures are very difficult, bitter like poison, but if one is successful in following the regulations and comes to the transcendental position, he begins to drink real nectar and he enjoys life. So there's kind of a little bit of a conflation here between happiness in the mode of goodness and transcendental happiness, because one really is the platform for another. Just like in this ashram life, someone joins the ashram, you know, the brahmachari, and there's all kinds of regulations. You know, getting up at 4. I mean, really, I don't know how to get up at 4. You have to get up earlier than 4, which is like, are you kidding me? I mean, can anyone actually spontaneously do that from the first day? Maybe there's a few, you know. But I couldn't, you know. And then, the cold shower. I don't know how many devotees blooped on that. But, you know, I remember my first cold shower. It was in Brooklyn in March, which is plenty cold. She remembers. You were probably there earlier than me. Were you there the year before? They told me there was no heat in the temple either. At least when I came, there's some heat. But they told me, yes, you know, there's no question of any hot in the shower. But then there's also no heat outside. So they go walking downstairs into the temple room when they're full outside dress. This is New York in March. It's bitter cold. So right away is a challenge to your fortitude, your determination, right? So now the advantage is, well, everyone else is doing it. They're not so different from me. I can't, you know, I'm not just going to be a sissy and just walk out the temple. So now I had an advantage. Did I tell you? You remember? I had been practicing yoga for a while, hatha yoga for about a year, and they have this heating breath, and then you stop, and it really heats. You know, right? So I said, well, I'm going to use that heating breath while I'm in the shower. And sure enough, you can try it if you ever faced it. So you turn on the freezing cold, you know, and you practice that breath, and I swear you practically don't feel it. And you know, you take like a 13-second shower, you know, and then you come out and it's warm because relatively it's warm. So that's how I, you know, overcame that difficulty. So as Prabhupada says, you have to follow many rules and regulations, control the mind, and the difficult, bitter like poison. So you get direct, you know, experience. Then immediately you feel, hey, I'm a yogi, not bad. You know, you get ready, you run down to the temple, and then there's the kirtan. And you earned it. You feel like you really earned it. And so there's, you know, the bliss of the kirtan. That's the wonderful thing about Krishna consciousness, is that, you know, you read the 6th chapter, and you go to a secluded place, and of course it means the Himalayas or something, and you sit down alone, you know, no question of any companions or anything like that, And you practice pranayama, and you're breathing, and from wherever and wherever the mind wanders, bring it back. Can anyone really even conceive doing that now? I mean, you can go to the yoga studio and meditate, go on a retreat for a while, but to really take it seriously, it's a sure failure. Even Arjuna couldn't do it. And then at a certain point, after years maybe, you'll start to experience, your powers and whatever, But Krishna consciousness is like from day one. If you really get into it, you throw yourself into it, you feel something. The Hare Krishna mantra is so powerful. It's Krishna. And if you just get caught up in the kirtan and you hear the holy name, how can you not hear it? You're connected with Krishna. And in a few days, if you stick it out, you get serious, naturally you feel the benefits. This is why the movement spread all over the world, because it's real. It's just like, putting a glove in your mouth or something. Who can deny that it exists, So, that's, you begin to taste the happiness that you realize, and you read in the books and you hear from it, that it doesn't have to end. Because it's dependent on your own consciousness. If you can always remember Krishna starting right now, and always be absorbed in Krishna's thought, and be determined to work for him, then you'll be on the transcendental platform forever. It's our conditioning that distracts us and slows us up. It's actually like that. So the mode of goodness is the platform. I was mentioning the ashram. The ashram is meant to be a place where you come out of the modes of passion and ignorance, and things are meant to be kept clean and regulated, and come to the mode of goodness. And on that mode of goodness, that's where the mind is more peaceful, you can hear better, you can be more determined, and you can come to the mode, eventually, of pure goodness. This is described in summary in that nice section, chapter 2, first canto, based on hearing. It's all based on hearing nicely. Shrinvatam sakata Krishna punya shavana kirtana. Ridyantaksto yabhadrani vidunoti surit satam. Krishna is our best friend. God is the best friend of the living entity. He never forgets us. He claims us, they're all my children. Aham bija padak pita. So we forget him, but he doesn't forget us. So when he's there in the heart, and he hears, he understands, we're hearing about him in the proper mood, and from the proper source especially. So, Shrinvatam, hearing, Swakata Krishna, his own kata, glorification. Krishna himself, he's the subject of this sentence. In the heart, he cleanses away the abhadras, the impurities in the heart. And the next verse says, when those abhadras, nashta prayeshu abhadreshu nityam bhagavata sevya, by constantly serving the Bhagavatam, by hearing it and chanting it, and serving the person Bhagavat, very important, the guru, then one becomes fixed in devotion. And at that time, it's exactly pertinent to this, tada rajas tamo bhava kama lobhadayasya. Then one is no longer affected by the modes of passion and ignorance, and their corollaries, their effects, lust and anger and greed. So, tada rajas tamo kama lobhada cheta eta anavidham. The cheta, the consciousness, is not affected, anavidham. And it's stita sattva prasidati, one is fixed in goodness. And as you go on, evam prasanna manaso, bhagavad bhakti yogadaha. Prasanna manasa means very peaceful and joyful, clear. The consciousness becomes clear, the mind, manaso, bhagavad bhakti, by practicing by bhakti yoga. Bhagavad tattva vijnanam, and Krishna starts revealing himself to you in various ways. That's what Vigyan is, direct experience. And mukta sangha sajayate, you're liberated from all of the attachments and association with the material world. Jayate, victorious. Then the next verse describes vidyate vidya grantis, all of the knots in the heart. The heart is filled with unlimited desires for things we experience in this world or aspire to experience. And those desires are like ropes tying us to this world. So it says vidyate, they're all cut, because the attachment's been transferred to Krishna, to God. And chidyante sarvasan, the doubts are gone. Why are they gone? Because you've already had some direct experience. And chiyante chasya karmani, all of the previous karma and the residual reactions which we're suffering from, they're eradicated. And then drishta evatmanishare, one sees Krishna within the heart, and you see yourself also. You understand your actual relationship. All starting with hearing and chanting, and coming through the different modes, above the mode of goodness to the mode of pure goodness. So that's now it can be very, it can be a long haul, and at the beginning the difficulties are there. So that's the beginning of poison. But in the end, it's just like nectar and awakens one to self-realization. So that's the process of devotional service. We should embrace it. Okay, we have a few more minutes unless there's some discussion. Vishayendriya sangyogad yattadagraim vitopamam pariname vishamiva tatsukam radasam smritam. That happiness which is derived from contact of the senses with their objects and which appears like nectar at first but poison at the end is said to be of the nature of passion. Purport: a young man and a young woman meet, and the senses drive the young man to see her, to touch her, to have sexual intercourse. In the beginning this may be very pleasing to the senses, but at the end, or after some time, it becomes just like poison. They are separated, there is divorce, there is lamentation, there is sorrow, etc. Such happiness is always in the mode of passion. Happiness derived from a combination of the senses and the sense objects is always a cause of distress and should be avoided by all means. And the other example that we all experience is drugs. Nobody takes drugs and says, I really want to become addicted and become a slave to this drug and like ruin my life. No one thinks like that. You think, I can get high, I can enjoy with my friends, they're all enjoying, I can see, and they're offering me this, boom, and you get involved. But in every case, it doesn't matter, you think, well, this drug won't do this. It's always an artificial high. You're manipulating the brain chemistry. That's a material thing. And eventually it produces dependence, it produces misery, desperation, suicide, opioid, Where is the bad side effect to chanting Hare Krishna? I've been going on past 45 years already. Where's the bad side effect? I'm not, I'm hoping I'm dependent on chanting Hare Krishna. You want to become addicted to Krishna. Prabhupada was speaking to John Lennon and Yoko Ono at his estate when Prabhupada first went to London. They stayed there. He offered because he was friends with George. It's a wonderful story. So Prabhupada, he comes to England after the pioneers, the three heroic three couples, Shyamasundar and Malati and Gurudas and Yamuna and Mukunda and Janaki. They'd been going from here to there, chanting on the street, trying to make connection. Finally, Shyamasundar met, George. He said, I've been looking for you. Where are you guys? He'd gone to India, he got into... And this was a huge boost for the movement. It's a wonderful history. So at a certain point, Prabhupada came over, and he's staying at this estate with John Lennon and Yoko Ono. Now, there's no secret there. They even had a picture on the wall, something about heroin, and so that they were into drugs. So Prabhupada has this conversation, and he talks about, they say, how can you recognize the guru, a spiritual master? He said, the one who is most addicted to Krishna. It's not an accident to use that word, to them. But really, it's just like that. You have to be addicted to something. I like to point out, there's a verse in the 15th chapter where Krishna is describing very graphically the process of transmigration. I highly recommend it. And at one point he says, when the living entity leaves one body, you get another body, and you get another set of, you may be in an animal body, but you'll get another set of Shotram, Chakshu, Sparsha, Nangsha, Rasanam, Granam, Evacha, Adhisthaya, Manaschaya, Vishayana Pusevate. Which means you get a certain ear, eye, sense of touch, taste, and smell. And with those senses, you will interact with the object of the senses and upasevate. The verb is upasevate. Now, it seems to mean serve. And in a sense you are. You're a servant of the senses, a servant of the sense objects. But another meaning, this is right in the dictionary, is to become addicted to. Addicted to a certain set of smells and tastes and touches like that. And in different animals, the hog doesn't, eat something that we don't want to even think about eating. But that's the same soul. We're in a different body getting addicted to this. So we use the same senses in Krishna consciousness. We're using the same eyes, ears, everything. But because under instruction we're interacting with Krishna prasadam and Krishna sound and looking at Krishna and reading and hearing, then that's purifying. The senses become purified. With these contaminated or covered senses, we can't perceive Krishna directly. So he gives us ways by which we can perceive him through his material energy. After all, Hare Krishna mantra is also a sound. It's also vibrated in the material way. Now we wouldn't say it's a material, it's a spiritual sound, but it's a spiritual sound through which we perceive with our material senses, so that they become spiritualized. You see, this is deity of Radha and Krishna. A lot of people think they're just stone statues, but it's actually Krishna manifesting through his material energy for us. So we have to be intelligent enough to use our material senses, material mind, intelligence, to connect with Krishna. It's just like Prabhupada's beautiful analogy. You take an iron rod and you put it into a fire, and after a few minutes it's red hot and it acts like fire. So you can't say it's not an iron rod anymore, it's fire, right? So we become spiritualized in Prabhupada's immortal word, and they kind of, I wouldn't say they bowdlerized it, but those early editors, instead of saying what Prabhupada, Krishnized, they made it Krishnaized. Maybe when I find it in the books I'll change it back. Krishnized. You become Krishnized. In other words, you're in the fire and you become pure. And at the time of death you just take off this coat and you go back to Krishna. That's the whole idea. Okay, we didn't get to mode of ignorance, so we'll save that for tomorrow. Yes, Prabhu. I'm sorry? Bowdlerize. I'll tell you what. It's not really accurate for this. Bowdlerize is something that was done in England to make the book more palatable to a mass audience. If there was something in there was a little risque or something, they would take that out and adjust it. Bowdler, B-O-W-D-L-E-R. Okay, so where are we? Back to Krishna book. Okay. So we're in the chapter, the salvation of Lord Shiva. We have yet to reach the plot. We had a lot of philosophy at the beginning, but I think we're at that point now. And does anyone remember who he's going to be saved from? Named? Vrikasura? Okay, let's call him Vrikasura. Vrika means cut. And we'll learn about him. He's got a kind of a nasty habit, this guy. Okay, I just have to get to the bookmark. All right, the deliverance of Lord Shiva. All right, continuing on. Here another question may be raised. If the Supreme Lord is all-powerful, why should he try to reform his devotee by putting him in distress? The answer is that when the Supreme Lord puts his devotee in distress, it is not without purpose. Sometimes the purpose is that in distress, a devotee's feelings of attachment to Krishna are magnified. For example, when Krishna, before leaving the capital of the Pandavas for his home, asked Kunti Devi for permission to leave, she said, "My dear Lord, or my dear Krishna, in our distress you were always present with us. Now, because we have been elevated to a royal position, you are leaving us. I would therefore prefer to live in distress than to lose you." When a devotee is put into a situation of distress, his devotional activities are accelerated. Therefore, to show special favor to a devotee, the Lord sometimes puts him into distress. Besides that, it is stated that the sweetness of happiness is sweeter to those who have tasted bitterness. The Supreme Lord descends to this material world just to protect his devotees from distress. In other words, if devotees were not in a distressed condition, the Lord would not have come down. As for his killing the demons, or miscreants, this can be easily done by his various energies, just as many demons are killed by his external energy, goddess Durga. Therefore, the Lord doesn't need to come down personally to kill such demons, but when his devotee is in distress, he must come. Lord Nrsingadev appeared not in order to kill Hiranyakashipu, but to save Prahlad and to give him blessings. In other words, because Prahlad Maharaj was put into very great distress, the Lord appeared. Now, how can we use this practically in our devotional service? I'll just give a slight diversion here. So, you can see that the great devotees, such as Prabhupada, they voluntarily put themselves into distress for preaching. And Srila Prabhupada, what could be more distress than Prabhupada's trip to America in 1965? He went on a boat for the first time. He got seasick. He got 2 heart attacks, you know. And meanwhile, he has no money, no friends at the other end, really, you know. And it was just like, but still, Prabhupada, you know, he's in his diary, he's calling out to Krishna, and especially that Markandeya Bhagavad Dharma, the poem he wrote when he got there. So that's really the mark of the great devotees, that they voluntarily undertake difficult services to please the Lord, to especially to preach in the modern age. And when there is some difficulty, what are you going to do? You can only call out to Krishna in helplessness. And that helpless calling out to Krishna from the bottom of your heart, that's when you really feel the presence of the Lord deeply. And we can see that Lord Chaitanya, he recommended that. You know, once you feel oneself as humble as a blade of grass, tolerant as a tree. Why do you have to be tolerant? Because you're putting yourself in a difficult position where you have to suffer something. But don't get proud, you know, because now I'm really doing. I really got it together. I'm as humble as a blade of grass. I'm tolerant as a tree. But what about the third one? Not wanting any honor and giving all honor to others. See, that it cuts off the subtle gratification. So that this is the advantages of Kali Yuga. Kali Yuga, you don't really have to look for distress. He's going to come and get you. You know, he's coming for you. There's no real place of peace in this world. And so, what can we do? Call out to Krishna. You see? And that keeps us in a healthy condition of devotional service. To feel dependent on Krishna at every moment, and yet to maintain determination, as we read, to do one's duty in Krishna consciousness. That's the mood of a sincere devotee. So, going on here. When after the dense dark night there is finally sunrise in the morning, it's very pleasant. When there is scorching heat, cold water is very pleasant. When there is freezing winter, hot water is very pleasant. Similarly, when a devotee, after experiencing the distress of the material world, relishes the spiritual happiness awarded by the Lord, his position is still more pleasant and enjoyable. The Lord continued. When my devotee is bereft of all material riches and is deserted by his relatives, friends, and family members, because he has no one to look after him, he completely takes shelter of the lotus feet of the Lord. Now this is a famous verse. Prabhupada applied it to himself. Yasyahamana grinnami harashe taddanankshanai. To those who I show my real mercy, I gradually take away all their wealth. Oh, wait a minute. I came to pray to the church in order to pray to be able to pay my rent. Now you're going to take away what I already have? You know, this is a whole different level of devotion. Prabhupada saw that his failing business. You know, Prabhupada was a businessman. You know, he was preaching as much as possible. He was chanting. He was helping the Gaudiya Math. But he was, you know, he thought, I'll make a lot of money and spend it for Krishna. But try as he might, his business failed. There was a whole, you can read the history, you know. So at a certain point he threw up his hands and he finally, you know, he accepted the desire of a spiritual master who kept appearing in a dream and take sannyas, you know. So he saw that, yes, Krishna took away all my material, you know, props, and so I, you know, was able to come to this point of sannyasa. Such persons are advised by the Lord from within to associate with devotees. By associating with devotees, they naturally become inclined to render service to the Lord, and they immediately get all facilities from the Lord to advance in Krishna consciousness. But the non-devotees are very careful about preserving their material condition of life. Generally, therefore, such non-devotees do not come to worship the Supreme Lord, but worship Shiva or other demigods for immediate material profit. In the Gita it is said, therefore, Kankshanta karmanam siddhim yajanti hiya devata. The karmis Materialists, in order to achieve success within this material world, worship various demigods. It's also stated by Krishna that those who worship the demigods are not mature in their intelligence. He's a little strong, Alpamadisam, they're not very bright. The devotees of the Supreme Lord, therefore, because of their strong attachment for him, do not foolishly go to the demigods. Krishna said to King Yudhishthira, "My devotee isn't deterred by any adverse conditions of life. He always remains firm and steady. Therefore I give myself to him, and I favor him so that he can achieve the highest success of life." Close quote. The mercy bestowed upon the tried devotee by the Lord is described as Brahma, which indicates that the greatness of that mercy can be compared only to the all-pervasive greatness of Brahman. Brahma means unlimitedly great and unlimitedly expanding. That mercy is also described as Paramam, for it has no comparison within this material world, and it is also called Sukshmam, very fine. Not only is the Lord's mercy upon the tried devotee great and unlimitedly expansive, but it is of the finest quality of transcendental love between the devotee and the Lord. Such mercy is further described as Chinmatram, completely spiritual. The use of the word matram indicates absolute spirituality with no tinge of material qualities. That mercy is also called Sat, or eternal, and Anantakam, unlimited. Since the devotee of the Lord is awarded such unlimited spiritual benefit, why should he worship the demigods? A devotee of Krishna doesn't worship Shiva or Brahma or any other subordinate demigod. He completely devotes himself to the transcendental loving service of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Well, we are going to get to Vikasara shortly, but that will come tomorrow. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Now we're going to have a little ceremony and then some prasad. Hare Krishna. You're welcome to stay. Okay.
It's built by a North European BBC. So you can read the article. But they're supposed to be able to like basically autocorrect the Sanskrit and all sorts of other stuff. They're trying to like centralize all translation of all sorts of translation all their things. Oh yeah, weird like that. Yeah. It's a pretty crazy idea. It's definitely yeah, it's neat.
Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Anirishesha Shunyavadi Astachari Satarine Namaste Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shirasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shirasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shirasari Gaur Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Harimbo. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Shri Radha Giridhari ki jai, Jai Om Paramahamsa. Bhagavad-gita Ashtoto Dharshi Srimad Divine Grace Srila A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON Bhagavad Prabhu Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Bhagavad-gita Ashtoto Dharshi Srimad Divine Grace Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur ki jai. Ananda Koti Vaishnavini ki jai. Namacharya Srila Haridas Thakur ki jai. Prem Shri Gaur Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Shri Shri Radha Krishna Gaur Gopinath Shyamakant Radhakund Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavan Dham ki jai. Navadvip Mayapur Dham ki jai. Jagannath Puri Dham ki jai. Jagannath Swami ki jai. Ganga Mahi ki jai. Yamuna Mahi ki jai. Tulsi Devi ki jai. Bhakti Devi ki jai. Shri Harinam Sankirtan ki jai. Transcendental Book Distribution ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveda Bhaktivinoda ki jai. All glories to the Assembly devotees. All glories to the Assembly devotees. All glories to the Assembly devotees. All glory to Sri Guru and Gauranga. Namaste Narasimhaya. Namaste Narasimhaya. Allada Alladayine. Hiranyakashipo Rakshaha. Ashilatankanakaraye. Hiton Singha Pariton Singho. Yato Yato Yamitaton Singha. Bahim Singho Rindayin Singho. Nrsimhamadin Sharanam Prapade. Papakaratamalavare Nakamandita Singha. Andarita Hiranyakashipu Parambrinya Krishna Vandita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Papakara Kamalavare. Abhakarakanalabhare Nakamagita Singha. Andarita Hiranyakashipu Parambrinya Krishna Vandita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Abhakarakanalabhare Nakamagita Singha. Gita Gita Keshavandita Narahari Rupa Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Jaya Jagadisha Hare. Keshavandita Narahari Rupa Jai Nrsimhadev, 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 Jai Nrsimhadev. Sri Bhagavan Maharaj ki Jai, Gopinananda Thank you.
What's the all-day sweet today?
Oh, you're right. That's why I saw it at the Raj Yoga, because probably Leela's shopping.
You got it.
Leela's shopping is Monday.
I got it now.
So it was her. You're right.
There's no milk? No milk. Milk? No milk? What happened to milk? Stop it, just back there. Go back and get it.
Yeah.
You want it? Sarah, you good there? I'll just go first. I don't feel the Please, come get first shot. Come get first.
So many of these Santos, right?
I think I'll pick it up, yeah.
Go for it. Yeah.
Please.
Oh, Fiddle, please.
Hi.
Oh, Lord. We saved you some. Oh. These are specials. I'm not sure exactly what they are. Oh. They're delicious. Oh, No. This, I mean, there's cookies too. Yeah. Just take that. I'll give you a spoon. And
To wear socks sometimes?
Sometimes.
Yeah. Not seen many people very clearly what you say. So, have you visited it many times? Third time. Now I took this first side, right?
I think you should.
You're shot friends.
No. And you go first. Dada is first, right?
What do we call this?
He's that smart, isn't he?
Yeah. They're like just sweet and sour. You probably call it